I'm going to tell you this straight. No embellishments, no movie nonsense. My name is Snake Plissken. Yeah, I know what it sounds like. No, it's not the one from the movie. I wish my life was that simple. I spent 10 years in the military doing things my mother still thinks were desk jobs. After I got out, I slid into the contracting world, security, extractions, the kind of stuff governments like to pretend doesn't exist. And this is the part of my life I do not talk about in job interviews or at barbecues. Because this is the one job where I met something that wasn't supposed to exist. Bigfoot, sure, you've heard the stories. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the thing the old timers call Gugwe. So, the job. They started in the Monongahela National Forest in West Virginia. If you don't know the place, picture endless ridges and ravines, trees packed so tight you feel like you're underwater, fog hangs in the hollows, and the wind sounds like voices when it moves through the pines. Beautiful in the daytime, old, heavy. At night, it's a different world. I got the call on a Tuesday, early fall. Contractor liaison I'd worked with before, a guy we'll call Daniels, brings me up. Snake, you busy this week? Define busy, I told him. Got a search and rescue, high priority. 3-person recon team went dark at a disused facility in a restricted section of the forest. Time sensitive, limited air support, no local law enforcement. You interested? How much trouble? He hesitated just a hair too long. Let's just say there are some non-standard environmental risks. Like what? Chemical? Biological? Faunal? Animals? You woke me up at 5 in the morning because your guys are scared of a bear? He didn't laugh. They weren't scared, Snake. They were very professional people, and they all stopped transmitting 13 hours ago. That got my attention. I go alone. You're primary on the ground. We'll have remote support. We brief you here, fly you in, you hike to the facility, extract survivors, retrieve any intel that isn't nailed down, and hike to the exfil LZ by dawn. Simple in and out. They always say that. Then the briefing followed. They flew me to a nameless little airstrip that officially didn't exist. Standard stuff. White walls, bad coffee, everyone in polos with no logos. The kind of place where phones get put in lockers by the door. In the briefing room, Daniels slid a folder across the table. No digital screen, which I already didn't like. Paper means somebody doesn't want things discoverable. Facility designation, Ashwood Listening Station, he said. Built during the Cold War. Officially shut down in the 90s. Unofficially? Well, we kept some of the hardware alive. Remote sensors, signal intercept, environmental monitoring. Nothing too exciting. What broke? 2 weeks ago, some of our passive arrays started picking up anomalies. High energy bursts, weird RF signatures, unclassified biological activity near Ashwood. We sent a 3-person recon team in to check it out. He flipped to 3 photos. A tall, sharp-eyed woman in her 30s, Taurus, signals intelligence. A guy with a ranger's build and calm eyes, Reed, fieldcraft specialist. A Korean-American man with glasses and a quiet look to him, Park, analyst and tech support. Good mix, competent faces, not weekend warriors. Last contact? I asked. He slid over a printed transcript. 2147. Read. Approaching perimeter fence. You seeing this, Ops? 2147. Ops. Copy, Team 1. We see your helmet cam. Proceed. 2148. Torres. Fences. Torn outward. Like something hit the inside. Claw marks. Big ones. 2149. Unidentified low frequency noise. 2149. Park. You picking up that infrasound spike, Ops? 2150. Audio distortion. 2150. Read. Movement in the tree line. Large bipedal. 2150. Growl. Metallic screech. Transmission loss. It just ended. Gear? I asked. Standard suppressed carbines, sidearms, thermal imagers, encrypted radios, some non-lethal options. They were not under-equipped. What's the environmental risk, Daniels? He looked at the other guy in the room, a gray-haired man with the permanent frown lines of someone who'd seen too much. The name patch on his file read Kelly. Kelly finally spoke. You ever hear of Sasquatch, Mr. Pleskin? I just stared at him. You brought me out here to chase a cryptid? Kelly didn't smile. We've had reports in that region going back a long way. Native accounts, settler journals, park ranger notes that never made it to the public logs. Large hairy bipeds, smell like wet dog and rot, wood knocks, vocalizations, rock throwing, the usual. We always assumed it was misidentification, bears, drunks, you name it, until Ashwood. He slid another photo over. Night vision, still. Something mid-stride at the edge of the frame. Dark, massive, upright. The head was wrong, proportionally smaller, with a forward jutting muzzle like a baboon. Teeth caught the IR light, long and predatory. This is from a trail cam 2 miles east of Ashwood, Kelly said, 3 days before our team went in. That's not your friendly neighborhood Bigfoot, I said. No, he agreed quietly. It's not. Some of the local tribes have another name for it. Gagui. The word sat between us like a stone. I've heard stories. You spend enough time around certain circles, you pick up rumors. Classic Sasquatch is supposed to be shy, elusive, maybe even curious. Throws rocks, bangs on trees, scares people, but rarely touches them. Gagui is the one they talk about in hushed tones. Shorter, bulkier, baboon-faced, aggressive, carnivorous. The one that doesn't just watch, the one that hunts. You're telling me one of those is camped out around your little listening post? I said. Kelly didn't blink. I'm telling you something big, strong, and very good at killing things ripped a 10-foot gap in a reinforced fence and made 3 highly trained people disappear, and that we have multiple decades of folklore describing a creature in that exact region with the exact same behavior. You can call it whatever you want. Daniels chimed in. We're not asking you to kill it, Snake. Just get our people out, or their remains, and whatever data they pulled from Ashwood. Everything else is a bonus. Any rules I need to know? I asked. That's when he handed me a second sheet. The rules. The page was printed in big, bold font. No header, no signature. Just a title. Field Protocol, Ashwood AO. Beneath it, a list. Rule 1. Do not leave the fire road after dark. Rule 2. If you see a tree marked with 3 vertical claw gouges at head height, turn back immediately. Rule 3. If the forest goes completely silent, stop. Get back to back, weapons ready. Do not run. Rule 4. If you hear your name spoken from the tree line and you cannot see who is speaking, do not respond. Rule 5. Do not shine white light directly into the tree line for more than 3 seconds at a time. Rule 6. If you smell copper and rot, as if it's sitting on your tongue, you are in its territory. Leave in the opposite direction you came from. Do not follow blood trails. Rule 7. If it closes to within 10 meters, do not aim for center mass. Aim for eyes, joints, and knees. Center mass will only make it angry. These come from where? I asked. Compiled from old reports, ranger logs, what little we could grab from local stories, Kelly said. You can ignore them if you want. The last team didn't. How do you know they didn't? He tapped a handwritten note at the bottom in red pen. Team 1 ignored Rule 1. I just stared at that line a moment. Anything else I should know? I asked. Yeah, Kelly said. Don't underestimate how smart it is. Hunters talk about normal Sasquatch as curious things, hiding, watching. Whatever this is, this gugwi, it learns, it adapts, and it does not like trespassers. They dropped me by helicopter onto an old logging road at the edge of the restricted area. The pilot killed the lights a half-mile out. I rode the last stretch in darkness, rotors chopping midnight air. Monongahela at night is thick. The tree line swallowed the stars. A low mist clung to the ground, swirling in the downwash. When the halo peeled away, the silence pressed in like cotton. I checked my gear. Suppressed AR platform with subsonic rounds, sidearm, 2 frags, 1 flash, 1 smoke, thermal monocular, NVGs, radio with secure channel back to ops, small medkit, tourniquet, high calorie bars, and the rules sheet folded and tucked into my chest pocket like a talisman. Ops, this is Pliskin, I whispered. Feet dry, beginning approach along fire road. Daniels's voice crackled back, slightly hollow. Copy Snake, we've got your GPS. Ashwood is 4 clicks north-northeast. Sunrise in 9 hours. Good hunting. I started walking. You know how most forests have noises? Crickets, frogs, birds. Even at night, there's usually something. This stretch of woods had gaps. I'd walk through sections buzzing with insect life, then cross some invisible line and step into a bubble of muffled quiet. Not total silence, not yet, but like someone had thrown a blanket over the world. Rule 3 tugged at the back of my mind. If the forest goes completely silent, I adjusted my NVGs, kept my light off. The fire road was an overgrown scar, 2 faint ruts with tall grass between them, hemmed in by ferns and saplings. Something large had been using it recently. Prints were hard to make out in the dark, but I saw crushed foliage, snapped branches higher than my head. I kept moving. About 2 clicks in, I saw the first marker. A tree on the right side of the road, thick trunk, bark pale in the green NVG glow. At about my eye level, 3 parallel gouges scored down through the bark, clean deep, about an inch apart. They weren't made with a knife. I've seen knife work. This looked like someone dragged a set of huge claws through living wood. Rule 2. If you see a tree marked with 3 vertical claw gouges at head height, turn back immediately. I stopped. Heart rate ticked up just a notch. Ops, this is Pliskin. I've got a Mark III. 3 gouges, just like your sheet, about 2 clicks from LZ. Daniels, copy visual, GPS tag received. You want to abort, Snake? I thought about it. If I turned back, I'd live, probably. And 3 people maybe, alive, maybe not, would stay in there, forever. That an option that comes with my paycheck, I asked? Daniel sighed softly over the line. Negative, it's not. Then we both know my answer. I skirted the tree, staying on the road, every sense burning. From there, the forest belt, heavier, like crossing some invisible border. The smell changed first. Damp earth and decaying leaves, normal enough, but underneath it, a metallic tang, just faint at first, like old pennies and something that had been left in the sun too long. Rule 6, whispered. If you smell copper and rot, as if it is sitting on your tongue, you're in its territory. It wasn't strong enough yet to sit on my tongue, but it was there. Something big moved parallel to me in the trees once, maybe 30 meters in. I heard branches flex and creak, a soft thump when weight shifted. I stopped, listened. The forest went quiet as I held breath. Not just fewer sounds. Nothing. Total silence. Every hair on my arms prickled. Rule 3. If the forest goes completely silent, stop. Get back to back. Weapons ready. Do not run. I was alone, so back to back wasn't happening. I dropped into a low stance, rifle up, pivoting slowly. I fought every instinct screaming at me to double time it out of there. Something watched me from the dark. You can feel it when eyes are on you. There's a weight to it, like invisible fingers brushing the back of your neck. I didn't call out, didn't move fast, just breathed, counted to 60. Then, as if someone flipped a switch, the night sounds came back. Crickets, distant owl, leaves rustling. The feeling of ice faded. I started walking again, slower. I just obeyed the first rule that actually mattered, and I had the nasty feeling something out there had noticed. Ashwood. I saw the facility fence long before I reached it, more by absence than presence. The forest thinned and the clearing opened ahead, a rough circle of low grass and strangled shrubs. Beyond that, a chain-link fence ringed a squat cluster of buildings. The fence had once been topped with razor wire. Now it sagged in places, and in one section, directly opposite the fire road, something had blown a hole through it. Not cut, not bent, shredded. Links hung in twisted ribbons. Metal posts had been bent outward, away from the facility, like some enormous hand had grabbed them and ripped. Ops, Pliskin, I whispered. I have eyes on Ashwood. Perimeter breach matches your last telemetry. No visible movement. Going in. Daniels, copy. Your satellite overhead is cloudy. We've got limited thermal from above. You're mostly on your own from here. Story of my life. I stepped through the torn fence carefully, avoiding any dangling metal. Inside the perimeter, the smell hit me harder. Copper, rot, something sweet underneath, like overripe fruit. The kind of scent that clings to the back of your throat. Inside the fence were three main structures. A squat concrete blockhouse with heavy doors. That would be the main station. Two smaller sheds, and the communications tower thrusting up into the night sky. The tower's lower rungs were twisted. About a third of the way up, a section had been bent and crumpled, as if something had climbed it and then pushed off. Lights flickered inside the blockhouse. Emergency power, maybe. A dim red glow seeped out around the edges of the door. I swept the area with NVGs. No heat signatures, no movement. Just absence. I moved to the door, noted the twisted metal. It hung crooked on the hinge. Something had struck it hard from the outside, buckling it inward. I nudged it open with the barrel of my rifle. Inside, the dim emergency lighting painted everything in blood red. I've been in a lot of places after bad things happened. War zones, cartel safe houses, ship corridors. Ashwood had that same feeling. The air new. The main hallway was narrow, cinder block walls painted institutional gray. The emergency lights flickered, creating a strobe effect that did no favors to my nerves. Blood smeared the left wall about shoulder height, a long arc that suggested someone had been thrown into it. Bullet holes poked the concrete further down. "Oops, I'm inside," I murmured. Signs of a fight. Blood, impacts, no bodies visible yet. Daniels. "Copy, Snake. Can you send helmet cam feed?" "Negative. Your reception is garbage. I'll record local and upload on Xfil." No sense in telling him that. The link had started cutting in and out as soon as I stepped through the door. Whoever built this place dug it into the hillside. We were practically underground already. I followed the trail deeper. Multiple rooms branched off. A comms room with ripped out equipment, wires dangling like intestines. A bunk room with overturned coats and a single bloody handprint on the ceiling. A small kitchen where a coffee mug lay on its side, contents long dried to a brown stain. No bodies, lots of blood. Predators sometimes drag kills away from the kill site, I reminded myself. Bears, big cats, other things. The smell inside was worse, concentrated. The metallic tang of blood, 1 or 2 days old, layered with that deeper rot, heavy and clawing. I kept my breathing shallow. There was a control room near the core of the station, door half open. Inside, monitors still glowed, fed by a backup power system humming somewhere in the walls. Data scrolls froze at the moment of power disruption. In the corner, knocked under a desk, I saw a backpack with a name tape. Park. I slung my rifle crouched and pulled it out. Inside I found notebooks, a portable hard drive, a small first aid kit, and a digital recorder about the size of my thumb. The recorder was cracked but looked like it might still work. I pocketed it and moved on. "Ops, I've got Park's gear," I whispered. "Recovered portable storage. No sign of personnel." "Daniels, copy. Priority is still survivors. Data's secondary." "No kidding." I continued deeper until I reached a heavy steel door at the end of the corridor, security keypad dark and dead. Beside it, the wall was scraped raw, deep gouges raked through paint and concrete both. Something had clawed this door, hard. The door itself was bent inward near the center, as if something had rammed it repeatedly from the outside, then changed its mind and gone looking elsewhere. Down the hall, because about 10 meters back, near an intersection of corridors, the floor turned into a horror show. Blood pooled there, thick and almost black in the low light. It spattered the walls in a spray pattern that told me someone had been hit hard. And in the middle of it, smeared through the gore, was something like a footprint. But it wasn't quite human. Broad, about 14 inches long, but the toes were long and splayed, something halfway between a person and an ape. The heel was deep, claw-tipped toes scoring the linoleum. Overlapping prints crossed the area. Impossible to tell how many. 2, 3. Great. Oops. I've got sign of a large biped inside the structure, I said quietly. Unknown number. Same style as your trail cam still. Daniels. Copy. Any sign of the team? Negative. But something bled a lot in here. Keep looking. Time is ticking. Yeah, I knew. I found them in the server room. The door was barricaded from the inside, 2 metal racks shoved up against it, a chair jammed under the handle. Something had clawed at the outside, leaving curved gouges where the metal bent but didn't quite give. Torres, Reed, Park, I called softly, knuckles rapping once on the door. Name's Pliskin, I'm your taxi out of here. There was a long, tense pause, then a voice, hoarse and weary, filtered through the metal. Prove it. What do you want? A resume? I asked. Your handler sends his regards. Got a message for you from Ops. Rule 1 was there for a reason. Another pause, a quiet curse. Then I heard scraping, metal protesting as someone dragged the barricade aside. The door cracked open an inch, and a single brown eye peered out at me, bloodshot and suspicious. Which one? I asked. Torres, Reed, or Park? Reed, he answered. What's the extraction plan? I kept my hands visible. In through the back, out the way I came, I said. We hike to LZ 2.5 clicks west. If we are lucky, we beat sunrise. If we are not, we still move. He studied me another second, then opened the door fully. Reed looked like he'd been dragged through hell, spat out and sent back for seconds. His beard was scruffier than in the photo, clothes smeared with dried blood that might not all be his. A bandage peeked out from under his left sleeve, soaked through at the edges. Torres sat on the floor by one of the server racks, back against cold metal, a pistol loose in her lap. Her left leg was splinted with duct tape and a broken server rail, jeans shredded around a nasty swollen mess of flesh. Her face was pale and drawn, eyes too bright. Park lay unconscious on a survival blanket, chest rising and falling shallowly. His skin was grey. A crude pressure bandage around his torso told me he'd taken something sharp and ugly between the ribs. You are late, Torres muttered. Traffic, I said. What hit him? Reed grimaced. Claws. Caught him as we were falling back. Thing got him good. Thing? I asked. They traded a look I didn't like. You sent the fence photo? I asked Torres. She nodded once. That's not the worst thing he did, she said quietly. I glanced around the room. It was small, crammed with server towers humming on minimal power. The air was hot and sticky, full of machine breath and human fear. Okay, I said. We can do story time on the way out. Right now, you three are walking problems, and I need to know how fast these problems can move. Reed? I can move, he said. Arms torn up, but legs are good. Torres? With help, she admitted. I'm not running any marathons. I knelt by Park, checked his pulse. Weak, but there. His bandage reeked of old blood and infection. Whatever tore him open probably didn't have clean claws. He's not running anywhere, I said, but he's breathing. I can get him on his feet with some chemistry and tape. I dug in my kit. Painkillers, a mild stimulant. Not exactly doctor approved, but we were in that fun zone where the choices were do this or die in a basement to a cryptid. I gave Park a small dose, careful not to overdo it, and a few minutes later he groaned and blinked awake. You alive, Park? Reed asked. Unfortunately, Park whispered. Good, I said. Means I don't have to carry a corpse. I rewrapped his bandage as best as I could, added fresh gauze and tape, then rigged a makeshift sling with a strap so I could bear some of his weight if needed. I jury-rigged a crutch for Torres out of a broken rack rail and some tape. You pulled any data while you were in here? I asked, nodding at the servers. Park, yeah, most of it is on this. He patted his shoulder where a hard drive was duct taped under his shirt. Facility logs, sensor readouts, trail cam feeds. Might explain what the hell that thing is. Gagui, Torres muttered. Reed showed her a warning look. They'll brief him if they want him to know, he said. They already told me, I said. Big, ugly, cousin of Bigfoot, baboon face, bad attitude. Sound about right? The silence that followed was answer enough. Before we moved, I needed to know what we were up against. Give me the short version, I said. What happened after you hit the fence? Reed leaned against the server rack, cradling his injured arm. We did our perimeter assessment, he began. Fence shredded, claw marks about 8 feet up. We checked the outbuildings first. Nothing. Then we hit the main structure. Same as you saw. Blood, no bodies. Trail led to that big steel door at the back. Something tried to get in there and couldn't. We started a methodical sweep. Torres took over. It started messing with us almost immediately. Rock hits on the roof, something moving upstairs while we were below, that kind of thing. Park picked up low-frequency infrasound spikes on his gear, made our chest feel tight. Then the smell got worse, like we were walking into a slaughterhouse. Park grimaced. We were in the main corridor when Reed spotted it, he said. End of the hall, just standing there in the emergency lighting. I glanced at Reed. Big, he said quietly. 7, maybe 8 feet. Wide. Shoulders you could park a car on. Hair all over. Dark, matted. Legs like tree trunks. Long arms, hands. Not quite human, not quite ape. Claws. In the face. Torres shuddered. You know that baboon photo where it's baring its teeth? She said. Imagine that, stretched over a human skull, eyes too deep and too smart. It looked at us like we were not even prey, just noise. What did you do? I asked, though I already knew the answer. What we were trained to do, Reed said. We lit it up. Center mass, double taps, controlled bursts. It staggered, roared, hit the wall hard enough to crack concrete. Then it charged. Park swallowed. It covered 20 meters like nothing, he whispered. Bullets were hitting it. I saw chunks coming off. It still came. I've never seen anything take fire like that and keep moving. Date ignored Rule 7. Do not aim for center mass. Center mass will only make it angry. We fell back, Reed continued, guilt etched into every line of his face. Torres went down when it swiped at her, took a chunk out of her leg. Park caught a glancing head. I put 2 rounds into its face. One took an eye, and it finally pulled back, screaming. We dragged ourselves into the server room, barricaded the door, and listened to it patrol the hallway for hours. Did it try to get in? I asked. A few times, Torres said. Clawed at the door, hit the frame, but it didn't fully commit. I think it was waiting. For what? I asked. Park looked at me. For us to make a mistake. We didn't have the luxury of staying hid and waiting to die of thirst. Okay, I said. Here's the deal. We're going to break contact with this facility now. We're going to stick to the fire road as much as possible. We're going to obey the rules they gave us like they're gospel. Understood? Reed nodded. Torres grunted. Park just closed his eyes and exhaled slowly. I got on comms. Ops, Pliskin, I've got all 3 survivors. 1 leg injury, 1 serious torso wound, 1 moderate arm. Facility is compromised and currently occupied by a large hostile fauna. We're moving to LZ now. Daniels. Copy, Snake. We were starting to write obituaries. Good to hear your voice. Be advised, weather's moving in. We might only get 1 shot at that bird touching down. Then we'll be there for the 1 shot, I said. Stay on channel. We unbarricaded the door, slow and quiet. The hallway outside was empty. The blood, the claw marks, they seemed worse now that I knew exactly what had made them. We moved in a tight formation. I took point, Reed behind me supporting Torres, Park bringing up the rear with a hand on the wall for balance. Every sound was a gunshot in that enclosed space. The scuff of boots, the clink of gear, Torres's hissed exhale when she put weight on her leg. We were almost to the exit when the forest outside went quiet. I felt it even before my brain caught up. The air seemed to thicken. The hum of the server room behind us vibrated in my teeth. Suddenly, loud in the absence of everything else. Rule 3 again. Stop, I whispered. Everyone stop, now. We froze. Something moved just outside the main entrance. Heavy, slow, each footfall a soft, deliberate thud. In the red glow of the emergency lights, a shadow fell across the open doorway. It filled it. For a long moment, it just stood there, backlit by moonlight through the mist. I saw the outline of its shoulders, the tilt of its head, the way it sniffed, chest expanding. Then it took 1 step inside. I'd seen the trail cam still, but nothing prepares you for seeing something like that in person. It was massive, shorter than some Sasquatch reports I've heard, maybe 7.5 feet, but built like a heavyweight fighter stuffed into a fur coat. Its hair hung in coarse, dark mats, clothed with leaves and twigs. Its arms reached almost to its knees. In the face, baboon. That's the closest comparison, muzzle jutting forward, nostrils flared, lips peeled back in a near constant snarl. One eye was milky, ruined, reed shot, but the other burned a sickly amber in the dim light, scanning the whole with slow, vicious intelligence. Its teeth were wrong, too many, too long, jagged yellow fangs jutting at odd angles, some chipped, some blackened. And the smell, that copper and rot and wet dog stench, hit like a truck. Park gagged behind me. The Gugway's head snapped toward the sound. He'd been obeying Rule 3, standing still, not running. But we'd forgotten something simple. Predators notice weakness. Park staggered, bracing on the wall. His hand brushed against a dangling piece of metal. It clanged. The creature moved. There was no roar this time, no posturing. One moment it was at the doorway, the next it was halfway down the hall, claws digging gouges in the walls as it used them to pull itself forward with obscene speed. "Back," I shouted. "Back, now!" I fired, not at the center mass but at its good eye. The first shot took it in the cheek, spraying black-red blood. The second skimmed its brow as it jerked its head. It bellowed, a sound like a chainsaw tearing through steel, and swung one arm at me. I felt the wind of it, ducked on reflex. Its claws hit the concrete wall instead, shredding cinder block like cardboard. Dust and chips rained down. Reed shoved Doris ahead of him, practically throwing her toward the exit. Park tried to move, stumbled, went to one knee with a strangled cry. The creature's gaze locked onto him. I did the only thing that made sense. I broke Rule 3. I ran at it. Everything slows down in moments like that. I dropped my shoulder and slammed into its torso, just under its center of gravity, like I was tackling a lineman. It was like hitting a parked truck made of meat and bone. Pain shot down my arm, but the impact threw it off balance just enough. Its swipe went wide, claws skimming my vest instead of taking my head off. I felt them slice through fabric, scratching the plate beneath. One claw caught flesh where my armor didn't quite reach, carving a hot line across my side. "Move," I roared at Park, voice raw. He crawled past me, using the wall, face white with pain. The Gugway regained its balance faster than anything that size had a right to. It twisted, those long arms whipping around. A hand grabbed my sling, lifted. Suddenly, my boots weren't on the floor. It slammed me into the wall like I weighed nothing. My vision flared white, then black, ears ringing. I felt something crack in my back, prayed it wasn't anything vital. Its face loomed close, hot breath reeking, strings of saliva hanging from its teeth. Up close, I saw things that don't show in blurry trail cam pics. Old scars crisscrossed its muzzle, pale lines through dark skin. One ear was torn. The good eye had a ring of lighter fur around it, like a mask. And behind that animal rage, there was calculation. It was studying me. My rifle was pinned between us, useless. I let it go, went for my sidearm instead. It saw the movement, snarled, and grabbed my forearm. Pressure. Incredible, crushing pressure. My hand spasmed. The pistol slipped from my fingers, clattered to the floor. Bones creaked in my arm. I did something then that most people only talk about in training. I went for the eyes with my thumb. Its head jerked back as I jabbed at the milky, ruined eye. The tissue there was softer, more vulnerable. My thumb sank halfway in before it yanked back, roaring, dropping me as it clutched at its face. I hit the floor, hard, rolled, grabbed for anything. My fingers closed around the pistol. I brought it up and emptied the magazine into its knees and ankles. Rule 7. Joints. The effect was immediate. The Gugwi's right leg buckled. It fell to one knee, slamming a hand down to catch itself, claws carving new furrows in the concrete. Black blood sprayed the linoleum, smoking slightly where it hit. It swung that massive arm blindly, more in fury than aim. I rolled, felt the rush of air as claws missed my head by inches. Out, I shouted. Everybody out, now. Reed half carried, half dragged Torres through the door. Park stumbled after them, one hand clamped to his side. I backpedaled, firing as I went, stitching lines of bullets along his joints, trying to buy seconds. The creature tried to stand, leg giving out. It crashed against the wall, bringing down a section of ceiling tile and conduit. It wasn't done, not close, but it was slowed. "Move, Snake," Reed yelled from the door. I didn't need to be told twice. I bolted through the exit, out into the night, lungs burning, vision flickering at the edges. Behind us, from inside Ashwood, the Gugwi screamed. It was not the bellow of an animal, it was rage. The night outside felt almost bright after the red gloom of the facility. The mist had thickened, swirling around our knees. The fire road loomed ahead, a faint pale ribbon through the dark. We ran. Torres gritted her teeth and hopped as best as she could, leaning heavily on Reed. Park staggered, each step sending a jolt of agony through his wound. I took some of his weight with the sling I'd rigged, practically dragging him. Behind us, something hit the facility door with a metal crunching impact. It was coming. "Ops, we are mobile," I gasped into the radio. "Ashwood compromised. Hostile is awake and angry. Moving west on the fire road to LZ. Will be loud." "Daniels. Copy, Snake. We're spinning up the bird. 15 minutes. You need to be at the LZ at that time, or you're camping with Bigfoot." "Yeah, well, this isn't Bigfoot." We pounded down the fire road, mist swallowing our lower legs. The trees pressed close on either side, towering black pillars. The wind had picked up, branches creaking overhead. At first, all I heard was our own labored breathing and crashing footsteps. Then, faintly behind us, thump, 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 the sound of something moving through the forest, parallel to us, inside the tree line, not on the road. It was staying off the open path. Rule 1. Do not leave the fire road after dark. Reed heard it too. "It's pacing us," he panted, using the tree line. "Good," I said. "Means it doesn't want the open. We keep to the road. We are playing by our rules, not its." Torres barked a humorless laugh. "You sure about that?" "No." The smell rolled over us in waves, copper and rot and wet fur growing stronger. Park coughed weakly. "It's marking us," Yeah, I muttered. I noticed. Branches snapped to our right, something huge crashing through undergrowth. A rock the size of a basketball tumbled out of the dark, bouncing once, twice, and slamming into the road 10 feet behind us. If that had hit one of us, it would have broken bones. It was hurting us, keeping the pressure up, seeing what we'd do. We pushed on. The forest sound started to thin again. Crickets faltered one by one, like someone was turning the volume knob down. Rule 3, whispered again. I didn't have the luxury of stopping this time. Eyes up, I said instead. If it goes totally dead quiet, we shorten formation, all guns on board. We rounded the bend, the road angling downhill toward a shallow ravine. The mist pooled thicker there, almost waist high. That's when I heard it. From the tree line ahead, slightly to the left. My name. Snake. It came out slow, drawn out, almost playful. The voice was wrong, like someone had recorded me saying my own name and then played it back, slowed down and distorted. It had that faint electronic echo to it, almost metallic. Torres hissed a curse. Park's eyes went wide. Rule 4. If you hear your name spoken from the tree line and you cannot see who is speaking, do not respond. It tried again. Snake. This time there was a chuckle after it, a low, breathy sound with too many harmonics. I swallowed hard. Don't answer, I said, more for the others than myself. Don't even look that way. Eyes on the road. Reed complied immediately. Jaw clenched. Park, though, he was fading. Blood loss, pain, exhaustion. People in that state get tunnel vision, fixate on the wrong details. His head turned, just a fraction. Snake, it knows you're... Park, I snapped. Eyes front. Something moved in the mist to our left. A shadow, quick and sinuous. Then a hand, not quite human, not quite ape, shot out of the fog and hooked Park's ankle. He went down hard, yanked off his feet, dragged toward the tree line. No, Reed shouted, lunging. He grabbed Park's arm and dug in his heels, muscles straining. For a second, it was a horrible tug of war. Reed and me on one end, the unseen thing in the tree line on the other. Park in the middle, screaming as his wounded side tore. The mist churned where the arm came from, hiding the rest of it. I didn't think, I just reacted. I brought my rifle up, one-handed, and fired into the mist along the line of Park's leg, stitching a controlled burst at about thigh-high, relative to where I knew the creature must be. The muzzle flashes lit a hulking shape for one fractured instant. Hair, teeth, a flash of that baboon muzzle, all much closer than I'd expected. The hand let go. Park slid back towards us. We hauled him up, 3 grown adults, pulling one bleeding analyst away from the dark like we were playing reverse tug-of-war with the devil. From the tree line, the gugui stepped out fully this time. It had blood on its chest, dark patches from where we'd hit it in the facility. But it wasn't slowing it as much as it should have. Its gait was a little off, favoring the leg I'd shot, but it still moved with terrifying speed when it wanted to. It stood there in the mist, looking at us. Closer now, I saw more details. Its hair wasn't uniform. Patches were torn out, scars underneath, old injuries. This thing had been in fights before. Its hands ended in claws about 3 inches long, black and chipped. In one hand, it held something. For a heartbeat, I couldn't process it. Then my brain caught up. It was holding a human arm, just the arm, torn off mid-bicep, meat ragged, bone glistening. A watch still clung to the wrist. Reed made a sound like someone has stepped on his soul. "Torres," he whispered. She looked down at her own wrist. Empty. Her eyes filled. "He was ahead of us when it first hit," she said, voice breaking. "It took him. I never saw." The Gugwi cocked its head, watching us react. Then slowly, it raised the severed arm and waved. A mocking little waggle, like it had seen humans do and was copying. The rules sheet didn't say anything about not losing your mind when the monster starts waving your friend's arm at you. We opened fire. Reed and I both controlled bursts, aiming for joints and the remaining eye. Torres even managed a couple shots from her pistol, teeth clenched against the pain. The creature moved fast, but not fast enough. Rounds punched into its shoulder, its hip, its knee. One took out its good eye in a spray of dark fluid. It dropped the arm, claws clenching as it screamed. The sound physically hurt, vibrating my ribs. Park clapped his hands over his ears, face contorted. It staggered backward into the tree line, using trunks for support. "Go," I yelled. "We've got it hurt. That's our window. Move." We didn't need to be told twice. We ran like hell. Adrenaline can cover only so much. A half click down the fire road. Park collapsed again. His breath rattled in his chest. When I checked his bandage, my fingers came away slick and hot. He was not going to make it much farther on his feet. "Leave me," he gasped. "Not happening," I said. "We slow you down," he insisted. "You know it. That thing's not done." He wasn't wrong, but I'm stubborn when it counts. "We don't leave our people behind," I said. "You want to die? You can do it on a helicopter with a medic swearing at you." I slung his arm over my shoulder, basically carrying half his weight. Every step was a jolt up my spine. Torres was flagging too, sweat plastering her hair to her forehead despite the cool night. Reed's face had gone that flat blank look I've seen on guys who've decided they're not allowed to stop until the job is done. "Ops, status on that bird?" I demanded. "Daniels, 2 minutes out. LZ's hot. We're seeing movement in the tree line on satellite whenever the clouds break." "Yeah, no kidding." The forest started to thin ahead. The fire road opened into a rough clearing, just a widened section where loggers once turned trucks around. Somebody had marked it as LZ on the map decades ago, and it had stuck. The helicopter's rotors were a distant chop at first, then a growing roar. A searchlight painted the clouds above with a pale halo. We stumbled into the clearing just as the bird flared for landing, rotor wash blasting the mist into spirals. The pilot kept it a foot off the ground, no time for a full set down. Reed got Torres to the door first. A crewman reached out, grabbed her, hauled her in. I pushed Park toward them. He grabbed the edge, nearly slipped, then strong hands dragged him inside. "Move, Snake," Daniels shouted over the radio. "We got a lift. We are on limited fuel." That's when the Gugwi, hit the edge of the clearing. It burst from the tree line in a shower of branches and leaves moving on three limbs, one hand digging into the ground for speed like a gorilla. Both eyes were ruined now, but it didn't seem to care. It locked onto the halo by sound and vibration alone. It came straight for us. "Go!" Reed yelled from the doorway, arm extended. I ran. The ground shook under each of its strides. I could hear its breath, ragged, fury-driven. The smell was overwhelming now, so thick it almost made me dizzy. A rock flew past my head, missing by inches and slamming into the side of the helicopter with a metallic clang. The aircraft lurched. The crewman held out his hand. Reed braced in the doorway, other hand gripping the frame. I grabbed Reed's hand and heaved myself up as the pilot, seeing the monster closing, started to pull power. The helicopter surged upward. My boots left the ground just as the Gugwee's hand slammed into the gravel where it'd been. For a heartbeat I hung half in, half out, legs dangling, arms screaming. Then the world tilted. The pilot, making a justified call, banked hard to get us away from the tree line. I swung. The Gugwee leaped. Its claws closed around my boot. Time did that slow down thing again. I remember the individual details so clearly, it feels like I could reach out and touch them. Reed's fingers digging into my wrist. The crewman leaning out, expression a mix of terror and determination. Torres propped against the far wall, eyes wide, blood on her teeth. Park unconscious again, head lolling with the helicopter's movement. And below me, the Gugwee. It dangled from my boot, feet scrambling in midair as the helicopter clawed for altitude. The wind whipped its fur back, revealing more scars, more old wounds. Its broken legs flailed, but its arms were rock solid, muscles like coiled steel cables. It snarled up at me blindly, jaw working. Spittle flew, flecking my pants. My brain did some quick math. Weight of one very large cryptid, plus the contractor on the end of Reed's already injured arm. Unacceptable. I twisted, fighting the way it pulled on my leg. My side screamed where its claws had raked me earlier. "Snake!" Reed grunted. "I can't." "Let go," I shouted. "What?" "Let go. I got it." He didn't want to. I could see it. But his arm was shaking, and the crewman was about to get pulled out of the bird too. He made a decision. He let go. For one gut-dropping instant, I fell. The Gugwee's grip on my boot kept me from dropping like a stone, but my upper body swung free. The ground was a blur beneath us, trees whipping by, too close for comfort. I reached down, fingers fumbling at my ankle. The Gugwee, feeling the shift, climbed higher, claws digging into my calf now. Pain lanced up my leg. "Come on, you son of a..." I muttered, fingers finally closing around the lace knot. I yanked. The knot came loose. The boot, slick with mud and blood, slipped halfway off my foot. The creature sensed it, squeezed harder, claws puncturing leather, grazing my skin. I kicked. The boot tore free. The Gugwee fell. It dropped like a stone, twisting in midair, claws clawing at nothing. It hit the canopy below with a crunch of branches, disappeared into the darkness. The helicopter surged higher, rotors roaring. I dangled by my other leg for a second, then strong hands grabbed my harness and hauled me inside. I collapsed on the floor, chest heaving, world spinning. The crewman hit the door switch. It slammed shut, muting the wind to a dull roar. For a few long seconds, nobody spoke. Then Daniel's voice came over the intercom. "Jesus Christ, Snake, you okay?" I stared at the closed door, the memory of those claws itching at my ankle. "No," I said honestly, "but I'm alive." They flew us to another nameless airstrip, this one with a well-stocked infirmary. Doctors descended on Torres and Park immediately, shouting jargon. Reed got his arm looked at. I got stitched, taped, jabbed, and told I needed rest. Nobody mentioned the smell of rot that seemed to cling to my clothes even after they cut them off. Nobody talked about the claw marks that didn't match any known fauna. A day later, I was sitting in a debriefing room with Daniels and Kelly again. This time, no coffee, just water. My side throbbed in time with my heartbeat. "Park?" I asked. "Alive," Daniel said. "In rough shape, but tough. Torres too. Reed's going to need some physical therapy, but he'll be okay." I nodded, letting some of the tension bleed off. "And our friend?" I asked. Kelly looked tired. "We put a drone over the area at first light," he said. "Found a section of forest where something big hit the canopy. A lot of broken branches, a lot of blood. No body." "It walked it off," I muttered. "Maybe," he said, "maybe not. Hard to kill something you don't officially admit exists." "That all you're going to do?" I asked. "Hope it bled out." He shrugged, a small, helpless gesture. "What would you have us do, Mr. Pliskin? Drop a strike package on a national forest? File a wildlife incident report? One angry cryptid appears injured, recommend baited trap?" I glared at him. "You have those rules for a reason," I said. "This thing's been there a long time." "Longer than us," he agreed. "Maybe longer than the idea of us. The tribes have stories going back generations that sound a lot like what you saw. We're not the first to meet it. We won't be the last." He leaned forward. "But we can limit how many people become its problem." "How?" I asked. "We close off sections of the forest. We reroute trails. We lose permits. We put up signs about landslides and unsafe bridges. If campers disappear, we call it a bear, or exposure, or getting lost. People grieve. The world keeps turning." "And Ashwood?" I asked. "Officially decommissioned," Daniel said. "For real this time. We pulled that data we could before the backup went. The rest will sit there and rot." He slid something across the table. The tiny digital recorder I'd picked up in the station. "This was in Park's pack," he said. "You turned it in. Thank you. We copied it and scrubbed the metadata. This one's for you." I picked it up, feeling its weight. It wasn't heavy, but it might as well have been a stone around my neck. "What's on it?" I asked. Kelly's eyes were very, very tired. "You," he said, "and it, and the moment between." It was 3 weeks before I had the nerve to listen. I was back in my crappy apartment states away, stitches out, nightmares in. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that baboon muzzle, those claws, that mocking little wave. Alcohol helped me fall asleep. It didn't help me stay there. One night, around 2 in the morning, I sat at my kitchen table with the recorder in front of me. The city hummed outside, distant traffic and sirens. It felt reassuring, all that human noise. I took a breath, hit play. Static at first, a low hum, then voices. Torres, Park, Reed, jokes, the nervous kind. Doors opening, footsteps, their first sight of the torn fence. I listened to the mission play out from their perspective. The first time they saw it, the panic in their voices when it charged, the screaming, the gunfire, the pounding on the server room door later. At one point, hours into the recording, there was just breathing. 3 different patterns, sometimes a muffled curse, sometimes a whispered prayer. Then, faintly, under it all, something else. A low, almost subsonic rumble, the kind you feel more than hear. Infrasound, predators do it, lions, tigers, some whales. It messes with your head, with your gut, makes you feel like something is wrong even before you know why. The Gugui had that. The tape played on. The part with my arrival came next. You could hear me banging on the server room, muffled, my voice calm but tight. They let me in. We planned the escape. Then, finally, the part I'd been both dreading and needing to hear. The hallway. The recorder picked up more than my memory had. The sound of it stepping into the hall, the creak of the floor under its weight, the inhale as it sniffed the air, the way my voice shook just a little when I told them to move. The fight itself was a chaos of roars and gunfire and crashing concrete, my shouts barely audible under the noise. Then, later, out in the forest, something else. The part the rules had warned about. My name. It was clearer on the tape than in my memory. Snake. It really did sound like me. Stretched, distorted, played back at the wrong speed. But the cadence, the shape of the vowels, that was my voice. It had learned it in the station, listening through the walls. It had mimicked me. Not perfectly, but close enough to screw with a mind already frayed. I sat there in my kitchen, listening to that thing use my voice to toy with us, and something in me went very, very cold. The recording ended with the rotors of the helicopter, the shouting, the roar as it grabbed my boot, cut to static. I turned the recorder off, sat there in the dark for a long time. You can tell yourself whatever you want about what I saw. You can say I was tired, I was injured, the forest plays tricks on the mind, bears can walk on their hind legs, sound distorts in the hills. That's what the official line will be, if there ever is one. A bear, a freak weather event, a tragic training accident in a restricted area. The people whose job it is to keep the world neat and orderly will shake hands, sign papers, file reports. And in a certain section of the Monongahela National Forest, there will still be a tree marked with 3 vertical claw gouges at head height. The fire road will still run past it, into the mist. Something out there, will still remember the taste of human blood. Why am I telling you this? Because one night, not long after I listened to that tape, I woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of my name. Snake. Same cadence, same distortion, like a memory played back wrong. My heart stopped. For a long frozen second, I lay there in the dark, listening. City noises, the hum of the bridge, my own breathing. No road smell, no thump of heavy footsteps outside. Nothing else. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe my brain replayed that sound as some kind of twisted greatest hits. Or maybe, and this is the part that keeps me up, it wasn't mimicking me. Maybe that's just how it sounds when it tries to shape human speech, to any of us. In which case, it wasn't saying my name, it was saying yours. Because here's the ugly truth. Most monsters in the world are human. I've seen plenty of those, but not all of them. Some of them are older, wilder, smarter in ways that don't map cleanly onto us. And some of those, like Gugwi, don't give a damn about your laws, your cameras, your certainty that the world is mapped and known and safe. They have their own rules. Rules like don't trespass, don't break the silence, don't answer when the dark calls your name. So if you ever find yourself walking a fire road in an old forest, somewhere in West Virginia, or any place like it, if you notice the sounds fade out all at once, if you smell copper and rot sitting heavy on your tongue, if you see a tree marked with 3 vertical claw gouges at head high, turn back immediately. And if, God help you, you hear your own name drifting out of the trees in a voice that sounds almost, but not quite, like yours, don't answer, don't look, just leave, because I've seen what waits in that tree line. And trust me, you're not the apex predator out there.